There was a moment when everything I'd been holding on to started to feel like poison in my hands. Every goal I was forcing, every relationship I was clutching, every future I was trying to control. It all became heavy, unbearably heavy. And then I discovered something the ancient Taoists knew thousands of years ago. Something so simple it sounds almost illegal in our modern world of hustle and grind. The power of letting go. Not giving up, not quitting, but releasing the death grip we have on outcomes, on people, on life itself. What happened next changed everything so fast, it felt like I'd unlocked a cheat code to existence. Let me take you back to where this started. 3 years ago, I was exhausted. Burned out from a career I'd forced myself into because it looked good on paper. Drained from relationships where I was constantly trying to make people love me the way I needed. Anxious about a future I was micromanaging down to the hour. I thought control was strength. I thought holding on meant I cared. I was wrong. The Tao Te Ching, written over 2,500 years ago by the legendary sage Lao Tzu, contains a passage that would later shatter my entire worldview. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. I didn't understand it then. How could letting go lead to becoming more? It seemed backward, dangerous even. But here's what no one tells you about control. It's an illusion that exhausts you. Every single day, we wake up believing that if we just try harder, grip tighter, plan better, we'll finally feel safe. We hold on to jobs that drain us because we're afraid of the unknown. We cling to relationships that hurt us because we're terrified of being alone. We force outcomes because we've convinced ourselves that surrender equals failure. But the ancient Taoists observed nature for centuries, and they noticed something profound. Water doesn't fight the river, yet it carves through mountains. Trees don't resist the wind, yet they've stood for thousands of years. They understood what we've forgotten, that there's a power in yielding that no amount of force can match. The concept the Taoists call Wu Wei changed everything for me. Literally translated, Wu Wei means non-doing or effortless action. Before you think this is about being passive or lazy, let me be clear. Wu Wei is not about doing nothing. It's about doing without forcing. It's about acting from a place of alignment rather than desperation. It's the difference between a swimmer thrashing against the current and drowning versus a swimmer who reads the water and moves with it, reaching the shore with grace. When I first tried to practice Wu Wei, I failed miserably. My mind couldn't comprehend how to move through life without forcing every outcome. But then something happened that taught me what the Taoists meant. I'd been chasing a promotion at work for 8 months. Networking aggressively, staying late every night, volunteering for every project, making sure everyone knew how hard I was working. The desperation was palpable. My manager could sense it. My colleagues could sense it. I was like someone drowning, grabbing at anything that floated by. And guess what? I didn't get the promotion. It went to someone who seemed to effortlessly glide through their work, someone who didn't appear to be trying half as hard as me. I was devastated, angry. But then I remembered something I'd read in the Tao Te Ching. The usefulness of a pot comes from its emptiness. My life had no emptiness. It was crammed full of striving, grasping, forcing. There was no space for anything new to enter. So I tried something radical. I let go. Not of my job, not of my ambitions, but of the desperate attachment to specific outcomes. I stopped networking with an agenda. I stopped staying late to prove something. I started doing my work for the sake of the work itself, not for what it would get me. I created space. Internal space, mental space, emotional space, and within 3 months, a completely unexpected opportunity appeared. A different company, a role I hadn't even known existed, reached out through a casual connection I'd made years ago when I wasn't trying to get anything from anyone. The salary was 40% higher. The role was more aligned with what I actually enjoyed. It felt illegal how easily it came once I stopped forcing it. Now let me tell you about another place where letting go transformed everything: relationships. For most of my 20s, I was that person who would text 3 times if someone didn't respond, who would analyze every conversation for hidden meanings, who would try to make people like me by becoming whatever I thought they wanted. The anxiety was constant. Every relationship felt like a performance I had to nail perfectly or risk abandonment. Then I learned about the Taoist principle of non-attachment, and it fundamentally rewired how I related to people. Non-attachment doesn't mean not caring. That's the biggest misconception. It means caring deeply while releasing your grip on how things unfold. There's a story from the Zhuangzi, another foundational Taoist text from the 4th century BCE, about a butcher named Ding. This butcher was so skilled that his knife never dulled, even after 19 years of cutting meat. When asked how this was possible, Ding explained that he didn't cut through the bones and tendons. He found the spaces between them. He worked with the natural structure of the ox, not against it. This is what non-attachment looks like in relationships. You stop cutting through people's boundaries, their autonomy, their natural way of being. You find the spaces, the natural flow, and you move with it. I tested this with someone I'd been dating for 4 months. We'd reached that awkward phase where I could feel myself getting anxious about where things were going. My old pattern would have been to have the talk, to push for definitions and commitments, to try to lock down the future. Instead, I practiced letting go. I stayed present. I enjoyed our time together without projecting 6 months ahead. I stopped trying to make the relationship be something and just let it be what it was. Do you know what happened? The pressure dissolved. The relationship deepened naturally. We moved in together a year later, not because I forced it, but because it was the natural next step in a flow we were both riding. And when that relationship eventually ended 3 years after that, I practiced letting go again, this time of the relationship itself. The grief was real, but the suffering was minimal because I wasn't clinging. I wasn't trying to force something to continue that had run its natural course. Here's where it gets even more interesting. The ancient Taoists noticed that the softest things in the world overcome the hardest. Water wears away rock. In the Tao Te Ching, Laozi writes, "Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water, yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it." We live in a world that worships hardness, strength, aggression. We're told to push through, to never give up, to be relentless. And yes, there's a time for determination. But we've lost the wisdom of yielding, of softness, of knowing when to release our grip. This wisdom saved my mental health. For years, I'd suffered from anxiety that would sometimes escalate into full panic attacks. I'd fight against the anxiety, try to control it, force myself to calm down. The more I resisted, the worse it got. Then I learned about the Taoist practice of embracing what is, rather than fighting what is. The next time I felt anxiety rising, instead of clenching against it, I let it be there. I observed it without judgment. I stopped telling myself stories about what the anxiety meant. I just felt it, acknowledged it, and continued with my day. The anxiety didn't magically disappear, but something remarkable happened. It stopped controlling me. It became like weather passing through, rather than an enemy I had to defeat. Within 6 months of practicing this form of letting go of the need to control my internal experience, my panic attacks stopped completely. Now I want to share with you the practical framework I developed, based on ancient Taoist teachings, that made letting go actually work in my modern life. Because philosophy is beautiful, but we need concrete steps. I call this the 3 gates of release, and I practice this daily. The first gate is recognition. Every morning I spend 5 minutes identifying what I'm gripping too tightly. Is it an outcome at work? An expectation in a relationship? A belief about how my day should unfold? I write it down, just 1 or 2 things. The act of recognizing what you're holding creates the possibility of releasing it. Try this right now, as you're hearing this. What's one thing you're holding on to too tightly today? Can you feel the tension in your body when you think about it? That's your sign. The second gate is reframe. For each thing I'm gripping, I ask myself, what if this doesn't need to go the way I think it does? I literally rewrite the story. Instead of, I need this meeting to go perfectly or I'll lose the client, I reframe to, I'll prepare well and respond to whatever unfolds. Instead of, this person needs to text me back or it means they don't care, I reframe to, people respond in their own timing, and that's okay. This isn't positive thinking or delusion. It's removing the rigid attachment to one specific outcome and opening up space for multiple possibilities. This single practice reduced my daily stress by what felt like 70%. The third gate is ritual release. This is where the ancient Taoist practices become visceral and real. Every evening, I practice a letting go meditation that takes exactly 3 minutes. I sit quietly and I visualize each thing I was gripping that day. Then I imagine opening my hands and watching it float away like a leaf on water. Sometimes I'll write what I'm releasing on paper and then burn it safely, watching the smoke carry it away. This might sound mystical, but there's something neurologically powerful about giving your mind and body a physical ritual for release. It's like telling your nervous system, we're done holding this now. Do this for 7 days straight. Just 7 days. Write down one thing you're releasing each night and either burn it or tear it up. Then come back and share what shifted for you. I'm genuinely curious about your experience with this. There's something else the Taoists understood that Western psychology is only now beginning to recognize. The ego is the source of most suffering. The ego is that part of you that needs things to be a certain way to feel okay. It's the voice that says, I need this promotion to prove my worth, or I need this person to love me to feel complete, or I need to control this outcome to feel safe. The Taoist practice of letting go is fundamentally about loosening the ego's grip. It's about finding that deeper self underneath all the grasping, the part of you that existed before you learned to be afraid, the part that knows you're okay regardless of outcomes. In the Tao Te Ching, there's a concept called the uncarved block. It represents the original nature we all have before society tells us who we should be, before trauma teaches us to protect ourselves through control, before ambition makes us grasp at external validation. Returning to the uncarved block doesn't mean becoming simple or naive. It means stripping away all the false beliefs about what you need to be happy and discovering what was always there, a fundamental okayness with existence itself. This is the deepest form of letting go of the false self, the constructed identity that thinks it needs to control life to survive. When I started practicing this deeper release, I noticed something profound. The things I thought I needed started to matter less. Not because I stopped caring about my life, but because I stopped tying my worth to external outcomes. I could pursue goals without being destroyed if they didn't work out. I could love people without needing them to complete me. I could face uncertainty without crumbling into anxiety. The ancient Taoists would call this achieving the watercourse way, moving through life with the effortless power of water, which adapts to every container but never loses its essential nature. Let me tell you about what happened when I applied this to my biggest fear: financial security. For years I'd hoarded money out of terror, not saving responsibly, but hoarding compulsively. Every dollar spent felt like a loss. I was living in scarcity mentality, gripping my finances so tightly that I couldn't enjoy anything I'd earned. Then I read about the Taoist principle of circulation. In nature, nothing stagnates. Water that doesn't flow becomes toxic. Energy that doesn't circulate dies. The Taoists observed that life itself is based on cycles. Seasons change, breath flows in and out, energy moves. Holding on to anything too tightly interrupts the natural circulation. So I experimented with letting go of my financial fear. Not recklessly spending, but releasing the death grip. I started investing in experiences that brought joy. I gave money away to causes I believed in. I treated friends to dinner without mentally calculating whether they'd reciprocate. Within a year, my income had increased by 60%. Now, I'm not claiming this is magic or that the universe rewards letting go with cash. What happened was more subtle and more real. When I released the scarcity mentality, I had mental and emotional bandwidth to see opportunities I'd been too afraid to pursue. I said yes to projects that scared me. I negotiated better because I wasn't coming from desperation. I created value because I wasn't paralyzed by fear of loss. The Taoists were right. What you grip tightly, you lose. What you hold lightly, flows. Here's something else I need you to understand, because this is where people get confused about letting go. Letting go is not about becoming passive or indifferent. It's not about giving up on your dreams or lowering your standards. The ancient Taoist sages were some of the most accomplished people in Chinese history, advisors to emperors, master strategists, brilliant artists. They weren't advocating for laziness. What they understood is the difference between forcing and allowing, between aggressive striving and aligned action. When you let go of attachment to outcomes, you actually become more effective, not less. You make clearer decisions because you're not clouded by desperation. You see opportunities you would have missed while tunnel-visioned on one specific goal. You respond to what is, rather than fighting reality trying to make it something else. There's a famous Taoist story about a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors said, "How terrible." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned with 3 wild horses. The neighbors said, "How wonderful." The farmer replied, "Maybe." His son tried to tame one of the wild horses and broke his leg. "How terrible," said the neighbors. "Maybe," said the farmer. Then war came, and because his son was injured, he wasn't drafted. "How fortunate," the neighbors exclaimed. "Maybe," said the farmer. This story isn't about being emotionally flat. It's about releasing the compulsive need to label every event as good or bad, recognizing that life unfolds in ways our limited perspective can't fully understand. Letting go means trusting the process, even when, especially when, you can't see where it's leading. I practiced this during the hardest period of my life, when my father was dying. Every instinct screamed at me to fix it, to control it, to research every possible treatment, to fight death itself. And yes, I did everything medically reasonable, but I also practiced letting go of the outcome I desperately wanted and couldn't have. I let go of the future I'd imagined with him in it. I let go of the need for more time. And in that release, something unexpected happened. I became fully present for the time we did have. Instead of mentally time traveling to the painful future or bargaining with reality, I was there, completely there, for our last conversations, last meals together, last moments. The grief was immense when he passed, but there was also peace, not because I didn't care, but because I'd practiced letting go alongside loving deeply. That's the key insight. Letting go and loving deeply are not opposites. They're partners. When you release attachment, you create space for genuine love to flourish. You stop trying to control people and start appreciating them. You stop needing specific outcomes and start embracing what actually happens. The Buddhists talk about this too, and there's a reason Taoism and Buddhism influenced each other historically. They both understood that attachment is the root of suffering. Not desire itself, but the clinging, the grasping, the belief that you can't be okay unless things go a certain way. Now let me give you something concrete you can test in the next 48 hours. Pick one area of your life where you're forcing an outcome. Maybe it's job hunting and you're sending desperate applications. Maybe it's a relationship where you're trying to make someone behave differently. Maybe it's a personal goal you're white-knuckling through. For the next 48 hours, practice Wu Wei with this one thing. Continue taking action, but release the desperate attachment to the specific outcome you want. If you're job hunting, keep applying, but do it from a place of curiosity rather than fear. If it's a relationship, keep showing up, but stop trying to control the other person's feelings or actions. If it's a goal, keep working toward it, but release the timeline and the exact form it needs to take. Notice what happens. You might be surprised. When I first did this exercise with a creative project I was working on, I'd been stuck for months. I was forcing a specific structure, a specific message, and it felt like pushing a boulder uphill. When I let go and just allowed the project to become what it wanted to be, it transformed into something completely different and better than what I'd planned. It came together in 2 weeks after months of struggle. That's the power of Wu Wei. That's what the Taoists meant by effortless action. You're still acting, still creating, still moving forward, but you're flowing with the natural energy of things rather than fighting against it. There's one more layer to this that I need to share with you, because it's the deepest and most transformative aspect of letting go. Releasing the story of who you think you should be. We all carry these narratives about our lives. I'm the successful one. I'm the person who always helps others. I'm the rebel. I'm the one who has it all together. These stories give us identity, but they also become prisons. They force us to grip tightly to behaviors and choices that maintain the story, even when those behaviors no longer serve us. The ultimate practice of letting go is releasing these self-concepts and discovering who you are without the script. For me, this meant letting go of, I'm the person who never needs help. That story had served me once. It helped me survive a chaotic childhood by making me self-reliant. But by my 30s, it was killing me. I was exhausted, isolated, and unable to form deep connections because I couldn't let anyone see me struggle. When I finally let go of that identity, when I allowed myself to be vulnerable and ask for support, everything shifted. Friendships deepened. Romantic relationships became possible. I found a therapist who helped me work through decades of accumulated pain. The irony is that letting go of I'm strong because I don't need anyone made me genuinely stronger. Not the brittle strength of independence, but the flexible strength of interdependence. The Tao Te Ching says, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." I've spoken for a long time now, so clearly I'm still learning. But here's what I do know from lived experience. Letting go is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice, sometimes a moment-by-moment practice. You'll let go of something, and then you'll notice your hands clenched around it again a week later. That's okay. That's human. The practice isn't achieving permanent enlightenment where you never grasp at anything again. The practice is noticing the gripping and choosing, again and again, to open your hands. There's a Taoist meditation practice I do every morning now that's helped me embody this. It's called holding water. I literally fill a bowl with water and sit with it, holding it in my open palms. If I grip too tightly, the water spills. If I don't hold it at all, the water spills. The practice is finding that middle way, supporting without gripping, holding without clutching. That's the art of living according to the Tao. That's Wu Wei in physical form. Try this practice yourself. Fill a bowl with water, sit quietly, and hold it in open palms for 5 minutes. Notice what your hands want to do. Notice when you start gripping. Practice the gentle hold that allows the water to remain without force. This simple practice will teach you more about letting go than any philosophy lecture. As I bring this to a close, I want to circle back to why this felt illegal, why transformation through letting go happened so fast it seemed wrong somehow. We're conditioned to believe that change requires struggle, that anything worthwhile demands suffering, that if it comes easy, it isn't real. But the Taoists observed nature and saw something different. Seeds don't struggle to become trees, they follow their nature. Rivers don't fight to reach the ocean, they flow downward naturally. The sun doesn't strain to provide light. It simply is. When you align with your nature, when you stop fighting reality, change happens with astonishing speed because you're no longer spending energy on resistance. The changes I've described, career breakthroughs, relationship transformations, mental health improvements, financial shifts, didn't happen because I tried harder. They happened because I stopped trying in the desperate, attached way I'd been trying. I started acting from alignment rather than fear, from openness rather than control, from trust rather than grasping. That's the illegal feeling part. Our entire culture tells us it shouldn't work this way, but it does. The ancient Taoists knew it 2,500 years ago, and it's still true now. So here's what I want you to do. Not someday, not when you're ready, but right now as you finish hearing this. Identify one thing you're gripping too tightly, one outcome you're forcing, one person you're trying to control, one future you're anxiously trying to manufacture. And for the next 7 days, practice letting go. Not giving up, letting go. Keep taking action, but release the death grip on how it has to unfold. Use the 3 gates practice. Recognize what you're holding, reframe the story, and ritually release it each evening. Then come back and share what happened. Did opportunities appear? Did anxiety decrease? Did relationships shift? I want to hear your real experience with this. Not theories or concepts, but actual lived results. The ancient Taoists taught that the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao, meaning the deepest truths can't be fully captured in words. They must be lived, experienced, embodied. So stop consuming this as information and start testing it as experiment. Your life is the laboratory. Letting go is the hypothesis. Run the experiment. The results might just change everything faster than you thought possible. And when they do, when you experience that illegal feeling transformation, you'll understand what the Taoists knew. The way forward isn't always through force. Sometimes, often, it's through release. The power isn't in the gripping, it's in the letting go.